you may already have the assignment or in some of your classes, or you maybe started your assignment. About you have to write something, write a paper, right? How many have to write a paper on something this semester? Okay. Likely it involves research. So it's the presentation today is for you. We have a new term we've had to learn called information literacy. Once upon a time, what you need to know is how to read. But now we have to have computer literacy, information literacy, AI literacy, etc., etc. Fortunately, for me and for you, Ms. Clark is an expert on does a lot of presentations. She's done a lot of work on literacy, media literacy. So I see almost all of you got I hope you saw my email about bringing computers because you'll be using them. On today, still, what day is it today? Still the first. There's what day of the week? Tuesday. Yeah. Thursday. So next time, you'll have me again. Sorry. And I'll be presenting on using AI ethically, and a little bit about that emerging phenomena, which there's a lot of hype about it. So I try and sort out what's hype and what's actually useful, particularly for university students. So please bring your computer next time as well. So on Thursday. So any questions? One final comment. I've received a few emails from some of you about your service, doing your service thing. Thank you for your questions. If you haven't done or haven't thought about your service component, please don't forget it to the end of the semester. We trust that you're doing something. Sorry? What did we say on the syllabus? I forgot that we put on the question. So make sure you get that recorded and sent to me when you're done. If you just keep it short, it can be personal, just outlining what you did, how many hours it took, and if you worked with a supervisor or something, worked with an organization or with somebody else, get them to sign off and verify that what you say is accurate. If you did it on your own, I'll have to trust you, right? So any questions about that right now? Sorry? Yeah, if you were on service day, you can count that. Yes, sir. Read your course outline. Yeah, service component, service day, you can count the words. That clarify? That help? Any other questions? I promise not to bang my head on the desk too hard. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Clark, for coming again, and all yours.
Welcome. Okay. Today is divided into 3 parts. Think, act, believe. Think, believe, act. And the purpose of today is to give you not specifics, but an understanding of where you will be headed for the next 4 years in information literacy. It's really critical in today's world. will do a demonstration of the steps you go through in finding information for a paper. Then we'll talk about the wider world. How do you deal with disinformation as a citizen? You're online every day. How do you know what's right, what's true, what's fake? And we're going to talk a bit about that. All right, so think the 6 frames of information literacy. It's far more than finding your sources for your next paper, although it includes that. You'll see me in your individual classes where we will talk about more details on this. So, 6 frames, 6 areas of information literacy that you will be going through for the next 4 years. You'll see me in your first year classes, second, third, and even your 4th year classes. I got 2 honors psychology students doing their senior research, and they come back to do more sophisticated things. So, authority is constructed and contextual. Information is creation. Process. Information has value. Research is inquiry. Scholarship is conversation. Searching is strategic exploration. What are all of these?
Just a brief note here. I'm probably going to put this on the final exam, so you should know what they are. It's that important. Okay, so make sure you get it like that to start talking about.
Authority is constructed and contextual. What on earth does that mean? Well, authority is something we give others, or that they earn by some sense of expertise, they're credible in one way or another. They're evaluated on the information needed and the context in which it will be used. Okay, let's take some sources. You talked about, you heard the term peer-reviewed journal articles. This means someone has gone out, generally a scholar, has done original research, published it, it's before publication, and has gone through peers that decide whether it's worthy of being published or not. That's sort of the gold standard of authority. That information then in that peer-reviewed article is meant to inform other scholars in the area of what's of new knowledge. And they test it, they reference it in their work, and it gains more credibility. Now there can be issues with that. But that's the gold standard. Does that mean that everything else is not credible? No. There's gradations. Think of it as a scale. Maybe you want to know what the research has been in the area, but you don't want to read 50 research articles. You might find an article that's written to inform you that will talk about the research but isn't reporting the original research. Now that's fine. Let's say you get to know people who are authoritative in their area and you follow them. I follow Michael Geist. We'll save that one for later. Say you're a parent of a disabled child. You may want to read articles, in fact you will want to read articles on other parents' experiences. That's fine for that level of authority. If you're a physician researching that disability, will you be reading parent information? No, you'll be reading the research. See what I mean? Authority is contextual. Another example. Say you kept a journal during the pandemic. I'm sure some people did. Would that be authoritative as far as what happened to that person during the pandemic? Yeah. You wanted to read a story? Yeah, that'd be fine. If you wanted to know how society was behaving during the pandemic, would that be a good? No. So you see, authority is constructed in various communities that may recognize different types of authority. Information creation as process. Information in any format is produced to convey a message and is shared. So, I listen to Michael Geist's podcasts. Can I make a categorical statement that podcasts are not useful? They're not authoritative? No. Michael Geist is one of the top copyright lawyers in the country. I also follow a blog by Howard Knott because he's also a top copyright lawyer. Information has value. You express this most concretely by crediting your sources. We talked about that last time. Plagiarism. When you plagiarize, you're stealing the value of that information from someone else because they credited it and taking it for yourself. Sometimes free information can be really not all that helpful. We find lots of free stuff on the web that's not. Think about value, especially when you look at your news. Who's paying for the source from which you get your news? Research is inquiry. I've got students who say, okay, now I need to get my sources and then I'll write my paper. They're thinking in a linear process. It doesn't work that way. You get some sources, you do some writing, get more questions and you do more research. Scholarship as conversation. Communities of scholars, researchers, or professionals engage in sustained discourse with new insights and discoveries occurring over time. Once you get into finding peer-reviewed articles and scholarly books, you'll find that certain names occur over and over again. They're the leaders in the conversation. They're the authorities people listen to. And then perspectives change. And searching a strategic exploration. Again, right, find some sources, write some, come back, find more sources. And as you become more skilled at this, you'll learn, in fact, you'll start learning today what kinds of sources help you find what kinds of information. So the goal is really to think, what do I need to know? And then instead of going right to Google and typing in what you want to know, you'll think, what kind of source would answer that question? Maybe it's a StatsCan statistic, so you'll go to StatsCan. Maybe it's an insight. Maybe you need an overview of the area, so you'll go to an encyclopedia article. Maybe you just want to see some good sources at the end of a Wikipedia article. That works too. Now, I didn't say you could use Wikipedia for anything. Okay, I did not say that. It may point you to interesting sources. So here we are. The triangle. All right. Here we've got at the bottom, the base, primary sources. These are sources that scholars study and report, and they can be different in each discipline. Have you ever asked yourself the question, how do we know what we know? How does information move forward? We hear all the time, oh, we know so much more, or that information is old, it's not relevant now. Look at the new material. How did you find that out? Okay? And here is the work of scholarship. And it's different for each discipline. Any science or biology majors here?
Biology.
Okay. So you'll be looking at original research in peer-reviewed journals. Studying whatever. My senior research project was on GMIs. Musicians. I'm just doing a series in 4 semesters of music history. How do we know more about music than we did 10 years ago? What do we study? We study original music scores. We study recordings. We study even a musical instrument can be a primary source. Like a Strad violin is a really important source. Or I had one student do a paper on early forerunner to the baritone. And they study this, write articles about it. Maybe a diary if you're doing a history of life during the pandemic. A diary would be a primary source. Any psychology, behavioral science. Yeah, there's a couple. Case report, peer-reviewed journal articles. English. How many of you are studying the yellow wallpaper? Yeah, that's a primary source. Notice if you've done any research in that at all, you'll see there's a lot of articles from way back to present, all on that primary source. All right, secondary sources. These analyze, review, or summarize information in primary sources or other secondary sources. So now we're generally looking at books. It could be a peer-reviewed article that is itself a review article. By review article, I mean an article that has looked at 20, 30, maybe 50 articles in that area and giving you the what the trends, the research. So instead of just reading one article, you'll get led astray. You're reading the overview of dozens of articles done in that field so you can see where it's going and what the trends are. Okay. Tertiary sources. These are those that synthesize information. Think encyclopedias. We have Access Science. You need to look up a quick term and you need a review of meiosis. Go to Access Science and it'll give you a quick definition of the term, maybe some videos. Credo reference will give you, I'll show you where these are. Whatever your topic, Credo reference will give you something. It's a collection of encyclopedias. And then Encyclopedia Britannica. Go to the library website for all of these. Don't go out and use the free version because you won't get what we paid for. All right, let's do a quiz. Yeah, I'll show you after the quiz. Okay. Join. Code Good, that's persistence.
Yeah, it's more than 20 of you here, so.
Waiting for the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi's looking slow.
It's really, really slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi is a pretty decent one. Wi-Fi's really, really good.
Wi-Fi not working?
I'm still on the connected page. There's 2 participants selected.
Okay, is Wi-Fi just too slow? Is it more than 37?
Wi-Fi's not letting me on at all.
Not
I've been
letting
on the connecting page since there was 2 participants.
Yeah.
you- won't let you in? Okay. Well, can you watch with a neighbor? Okay. Oh, we're up to 41. Okay. Going once, going twice. Let's start. where do you think you might want to start? Primary sources? Google sources? No. Look for books and articles on and encyclopedia articles on the library website. Why would you want to start there? Ideas? Huh? Because you're getting the summary, the overview. This will give you cognitive hooks so that when you go to the peer-reviewed articles, you understand a bit more about what they're saying. If you jump right into these peer-reviewed articles, they're expecting you to know a lot. These are research articles written to communicate to other researchers. So if you're building your knowledge, that wouldn't be the place to start. Start with the summary. Information literacy includes, yes, all of the above. You need to use research tools and indicators of authority to determine the credibility of the sources. You will also need to understand that intellectual property is a legal and social construct that varies by culture. They expect you to get all of these right. It's raising some awareness. We just observed Truth and Reconciliation Day. Indigenous peoples have a very different practice of copyright and the ways they protect their information. We need to be aware of that when we're working with any indigenous person or materials. Information literacy includes formulating questions for research based on information gaps, or re-examining information gaps, re-examining conflicting information. You'll get sources that don't agree, and they're both credible. What do you do? Recognize that they are often entering into a scholarly conversation, and it's not finished. There's people, if you heard criticisms of how information and guidance to deal with the pandemic kept changing and therefore was not trustworthy, those people didn't understand this. The research is advancing. We have not discovered all truth for all time set in stone. We've discovered and researched credible positions that may change with additional evidence. All right. Primary sources can include personal diaries, yes, peer-reviewed, reviewed articles, yes, novels, poems, short stories, yes. Encyclopedias, no. And international treaties, yes, that's the text. And you need to take taking these courses from Dr. Froese, he studies these. That's his primary task. Because they are summarizing information. They're not reporting original research. They're not discussing the research. They're not except in very summative terms. We have primary sources. That's what scholars study to move information forward. That's how we discover new knowledge, by studying these. Lots of people have written on the yellow wallpaper, but there's still more to discover. So the yellow wallpaper is a primary source. Okay. People writing about it would be a secondary source. And then an encyclopedia article just telling you about the yellow wallpaper and how important it is in literature would be just a few paragraphs long summarizing it. And very useful when you start your research so you can get an overview really quickly. You can also look at the sources at the end and get other material. All right, so let's actually do this. All right, let's do it. Let's suppose that you've got a paper to do on disinformation. So we're going to go through the steps quickly here. We're going to go to databases. We have dozens of them here. And we're going to go to Encyclopedia Britannica. And we're going to look up disinformation. This is all going to make a lot more sense now. Here I've got a fairly brief article tells me when it was used starting in 1756. The term misinformation was used. Here's an important study, a 2018 study of Twitter, now known as X, used by researchers found that false information spreads more quickly than accurate information. I learned that in one sentence without reading the entire research article, but it also told me where I might want to go to find that research article. It tells me the difference between misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation, you're mistaken. Tell a friend that the party is at 7. It's actually at 6. You made a mistake. You tell your friend that the party was in the was at 9 o'clock. It was actually at 6, and the party's over by 9 o'clock. You didn't want your friend to be there anyway, so you told that on purpose. That's just information. Can you see what you're getting in a very short article? Here's the pandemic. here's the issues with social media, why people spread disinformation, why they fall for liar's dividend. What is that? I want to write that down because it will help me later in my survey. So I'm going to write down about the 2018 study on Twitter. I'm going to write down the term liar's dividend. I'm going to write down artificial intelligence. And then I've got what I need from there. I'm going to do something that I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have thought to do. And I'm going to go to the Oxford English Dictionary. Why a dictionary? And why the Oxford English Dictionary? This is the record of authority. This is the authoritative record, note that word, of the English language. It will tell you not only the meanings, but when a word first occurred. So I'm going to type in disinformation. And I'm going to see the rest of it here. Use the entry. Here's the definition. This is compare with black propaganda. Verifying when it was first used. And I see that it was used in the Times newspaper. June 3. (1955), June 3. Okay. Well, we have another database that can help find that one. See how I'm using that information to find another source here. I'm going to primary sources. Newspapers can be primary sources. In this case, it is. Times newspapers. This is one of the oldest newspapers there is. And we are going to look for the term disinformation. This is a keyword. And then we are going to say the date on 1955. June 3. Search. Yeah. Can you see? Well, first, let's look at this. Here we got an article on improving international relations. Let's go down to where our word principles of mutual respect. And one of them is the elimination of every form of propaganda and disinformation, as well as other forms of conduct which create distrust or in any other way impede the establishment of an atmosphere conducive to constructive international cooperation and peaceful coexistence of nations. What are we worried about now? We've heard of foreign actors spreading disinformation to influence elections. This is 1955, people. Can you imagine how much stronger your paper is going to be if you can start out saying, noting this, while artificial intelligence and automated chatbots are recent, the disarray and the chaos they would create was predicted by the Times newspaper and quoted. Would that get your attention, Dr. McDowell?
Yes.
Yeah, see? As opposed to something like, well, in this day and age, we've discovered that our new technology is letting people interfere with elections and disrupting international relations.
That opening sentence is a C paper right away. The first example is headed to an A paper.
Yeah,
Because it's specific. It gives a specific example of what we're talking about.
yes, and that's something I see over and over again when students come to me with their papers and say, well, I just want to write something general. Yeah, C or less. See how checking an encyclopedia and a dictionary can help you write a better paper. Okay, let's go on. Now it's time to look for some books. All right. So, you can look for books right here, or you can go to the advanced page and do disinformation and limit books. But we're only searching 64,000 books. That's what we have in the library. So we might want to be a bit broader than just disinformation. So let's do disinformation or fake news or, let's not do misinformation, conspiracy theories. What does the or do? It says find any going to limit it here to Vermont University. We have both print and ebooks. Search. We have 22 books. Okay, education majors, here's a book you could use to teach your students about it. Don't cite it in your research paper. Outnumbered. This is a really interesting book. I read part of before a student checked it out about algorithms. Did you know Facebook and any social media will figure out pretty much who you are? Your skin color, your age, your sex, your political views, your background. You don't have to tell them any of this. They've got algorithms to figure it out by your likes and your postings. Can you imagine then this being hooked up with political parties who then send you ads that they figure will be most convincing just for you? You see the possibilities there. Anyway, that's a fascinating book. Here, post-truth, truthfulness and falsehood, how false beliefs spread. The nature of conspiracy theories. I've got that one on my desk if you want it. How minds change. So we've got a lot here. Some of them are not terribly relevant, like the science of jokes. How did that get in there? Okay, I'll explain it. There's a very good reason. And the reason is that the term conspiracy theories is mentioned somewhere here in the abstract. The book isn't about conspiracy theories. Okay? It just mentions it in the abstract here. What if I want books specifically about disinformation and I don't want to see these? Okay? Then I look at the subject heading. See, it's a book about evolutionary psychology. Not what I want. So what if I could search a term and limit it just to the subject field here? Let me do that. How did let's look at one here. Disinformation. It's in a subject heading. Now, we don't want the juvenile literature part. Just the disinformation. So let's delete this. Go here and say search only that subject field. Okay? So I'm only going to get books that had disinformation as the subject. And there I've got 3. Now you see how it was helpful sometimes add in other ones. We get a lot of useful ones. So it depends on your search. Here's how you limit. Now, let's see. Maybe books in, so I limit this. And I find these books from all other libraries, assisted, University of Alberta, MacMcEwen University, and I can get those in. All right, got not a lot of time left. So, let's do another search here. We're ready for articles. Now we can get really specific because instead of 63,000 items, we're dealing with millions. And I really want to know more about that liar's dividend. I've done some reading here. Now I'm going to be searching articles and books. I can limit. Oh, I need to spell it right though. Yeah. Now I can limit here. Let's see. I want those peer-reviewed journals. And I want them to be in full text. Otherwise, not every article you find here will have the full text of the actual article. Sometimes it's just the title where you can find it. Then we can get it on interlibrary loan. And now we have 20 full text articles on liar's dividend, which is a reasonable number to go through and write a paper on. And you're going to get a far better grade, I believe, Dr. McDowell, if you write on something like liar's dividend than if you do a survey of all the kinds of disinformation that is out there, how it's hurting society.
Did you all get that? What's the idea? Specifics matter. In research, you want to get down to specifics. Okay? You don't want broad overviews. Your teachers want you to research in depth on something specific, not just give me a summary of disinformation. Okay? Important part of research.
Yeah, that's what the encyclopedia can do, not you. All right. Disinformation and fake news. Let's look at some here. Here, it's a post. This was posted this summer. This is the actual post. This is, oh. Okay, this is the current Alberta forest fire situation. I find it interesting that there have been no fires in Wood Buffalo National Park this year. It's like there's a magic boundary protecting the park. I also find it interesting that most fires originate 10 kilometers from small towns and so on. And then, as to prove his point, he gives you a map that the Alberta provincial, that's important, government has put out with fires. That's this August. No fires in Wood Buffalo National Park, but they're all over. Why might that be? Well, his explanation might be different than the real one. Let's see the reason. Fact check. There are sites, AFP and Stokes, that check these things and explain why this is false. This is Alberta Wildfire Status Dashboard showing a lack of activity in Wood Buffalo National Park because it's a national park and they're not responsible for it, so they're not noting fires there. And there were fires there. And here's the explanation, if you believe that there are no fires in Wood Buffalo National Park, would be that left-wing conspirators are setting fires in Alberta and all over to prove their point that global warming is climate change is responsible for the fires, but really people set them.
That's what you say, or that's what you
That's what Twitter said. Yeah. This is fact checked and it's false. I'm saying if you believe that there are no fires in the park, then that is your explanation that people are setting fires everywhere else because they want to say that climate change is causing fires. Climate change really isn't. They're setting the fires. See, if you believe the post and you look for an explanation, your explanation is going to be wrong because the post is wrong. Let's try another one. Actually, let's listen to an expert first.
My name is Timothy Caulfield, and I'm a general research chair at law and policy at the University of Alberta, and I've been studying misinformation for decades, for decades, and I've never seen anything like it. And we look at it from an empirical perspective. We study what's happening on social media, but we're also really interested in the policy, what we can do to fight misinformation as individuals, as students, as professionals, and as a community. Look, we live in the era of misinformation. I don't think it's ever been as important as it is right now to learn about misinformation, to be able to recognize what is misinformation, and also to figure out kind of strategies that are going to work to fight misinformation. So, look, this is an incredibly important topic and one that we need more individuals to tackle. We know, in fact, we have a growing body of evidence that tells information, it leads to deaths, it leads to hospitalizations, it leads to increased stigma and discrimination. It has an adverse impact on our health and science policy. And you know what? It also just adds to our chaotic information environment that makes it more difficult for us to tease out what's real and what's not real. So misinformation has an impact on everything, on the decisions we make about our health, the decisions we make about politics, the decisions we make about our family life, about our education. So misinformation it impacts a lot of things. So figuring out what we can do about it, yeah, it's important.
So how do you trust? How do you know what to trust? You stop, you investigate, you find out the sources, you trace the source, and check your gut. Does the post or the article trigger strong emotion in you? This can't happen, that's wrong. Stop. People who write these things know how to trigger you. Let's do a little fact checking ourselves. Here, True North. Looks like a news site. I like to read news. What's it about? Okay, I do find that it's from the North Center for True North Center for Public Policy. But I'm not going to read this, see what they say about themselves. I'm going to see what others say about it. This is what fact checkers do. So I'm going to take True North Center for Public Policy. I'm going to copy it. Paste it, and then I'm going to type in Wikipedia. Yes, the history started in 1994 with the goal of helping immigrants from the United Kingdom settle in British Columbia. What has it done since? It's been transformed into media and research organization. It's a charity. It featured a presenter saying that the Canadian government was hiding the true cause of the 2023 wildfires. That doesn't sound really good. And it was initially denied press access to a leaders' debate in the election and went to court, so it could be there along with CTV and CBC. And it's a charity, meaning it accepts donations. This doesn't sound really good. So I'm going to go to the CRA website and look it up. You can do this with any organization that issues tax receipts. Yeah. So I'm going to go to the list. Charities. Human, if I don't look it.
That's it.
I find out is sources of revenues. Okay, got donations, received donations, gifts from other charities, all other revenue. I have no idea where all that money is coming from. Trustworthy news site? No, I wouldn't trust it. At least if you read it, be wary of what you're reading. Okay. I know we don't have time to cover everything. Let's look at Ground News. Another news site. Some of these off. So, this will let me go directly. Okay, here it is. Ground News is a news aggregator source. It was started in Kitchener. Well, that's a clue. So I'm going to go to our library homepage. I'm going to put in Ground News. And I'll put it in quotation marks. And I'll do and Kitchener. Right, here I find that it's a startup. It tells me how it started up. It tells me the name of the CEO, which is, in the interest of time here, I'll just do a Google search on this. Some of the information I found in an article on Marlene Carr and her brother. And I find more information. It is a news aggregator with an just a couple more minutes. This is really interesting. A news aggregator with an algorithm to say whether it's the bias is left or right. It has people on the ground. Yes, you might want to look at this. It at least has a number of articles from different sources, and that's critical. Now, and they've done some pretty good things. But I'd like you to remember this, and we're into this. Read lots, but to quote a Yale history professor who's in the news quite a bit now because of his expertise. Truth has no algorithm. Fact check. Read widely. Delve deeply. Use your brain. Do the work to become the kind of person that is not going to be easily manipulated. Go after truth yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, see you Thursday. Please be on time so that you can get in very late like today, not professional. Try to avoid walking in and out. Yes, 100%.